I'm Fox 46 meteorologist John Dawson. This is our tropical update just for YouTube. Glad you found us here. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, as always, you're encouraged to do so. There are other things on here besides weather, but that's really going to be your best content that you find. And we're always here every day of hurricane season talking about the tropics. And I'm going to start with what's happening kind of concerning for us folks here in Southeast Texas, but I got a lot of other things to talk about for Hilary as well as the other spots in the Atlantic. It is just lighting up all of a sudden here with lots and lots of activity. But for us folks here in Southeast Texas, we're certainly watching this area, this tropical wave for potential develop into a cyclone. At this point in time, it does look like no matter what it would develop into, it does want to head pretty much into South Texas. So I'm sort of going to say that's going to be a miss for Houston as far as the rainfall is concerned. It's much needed here across the state of Texas. Now, where they don't need any rain is Southern California, that desert country that's also around the southwestern portions of the U.S. Is going to get way more rain that they want. In general, very general terms, they're going to get a year's worth of rain in this one storm as it's moving through. So Hilary has been a hurricane for a while, made landfall actually as a tropical storm, and then is continuing to sort of crawl up the Baja Peninsula, just about to make it into officially the United States, with the center of circulation indicating when it made landfall, when it would cross into the U.S. But you can see the rain getting pushed out ahead of that. And that's going to be the main concern, is so much rain that's associated with this storm. So just a quick reminder for those of you in Houston, or if you'll remember Harvey. Hurricane Harvey made landfall as a hurricane, but when it made its impact on the city of Houston with all sorts of record rainfalls, it was a tropical storm. So Houston never saw Hurricane Harvey. Houston saw Tropical Storm Harvey, and Tropical Storm Hilary is what is now hitting California. So I'm not going to promise you those numbers of rain that happened with Harvey, but it's still going to be rain that they are certainly not accustomed to. It's going to create lots of problems with flooding and potential mudslides in some of those higher elevations where we see the more of the desert climate and the just general dryness that gets funneled into one area. And then when you urbanize that even more, it becomes a bit of a problem with flash flooding as well. So the latest statistics here on Hilary for the 4 p.m. update on Sunday, 60-mile-an-hour winds. So those are still strong winds, can create damage with the winds, but it's the rainfall that's going to create even more problems, and really only going to be around for another 24 hours in a tropical sense. You'll notice in rainfall potentials, there's going to be more for that, and we'll look at that in a minute. But by Monday afternoon, we're going to be well into Nevada here, because we've got a speed now of over 20 miles an hour to the north, 23 to be exact. So this is going to kind of race through here, and that's going to be beneficial in the fact that it won't be dropping as much rain. That was the problem. Again, I don't want to be making too many direct references to Harvey, but that was the problem with Harvey, is that it didn't zip on through. It lingered around and just kept dropping rain and rain and rain. And there's going to be plenty of rain here, more than what they want for this portions of the country. But with the speed that's involved, it won't be dropping as much as what a tropical storm would or could drop. So here is some of those rainfall estimates from this point on. So additional rainfall could be 3 to 6 inches in some spots, and you can see how it's again focusing all the way up into Idaho and northern portions, and then eventually ending up into Canada with rainfall. Quick look down here on what that tropical wave in the Gulf of Mexico will do. It's focusing its rain on northern Mexico, so not even the heaviest of its rainfall in Texas, although South Texas is where most of that rain looks like it's going to end up going. The excessive rainfall outlook, this is a product from the Weather Prediction Center, and basically this is for today, which we knew would be the worst day as far as the potential for flooding. Widespread flooding expected for definitely parts of California, even in a little bit to Nevada, and then again the red area indicating still plenty of opportunity for the flooding, just not quite as concentrated, and possibilities all the way up even further to the north as this tracks. Here's what we're looking at for Monday. Same scenario, but a little less likely because the storm begins to weaken, and then we'll even have some possibilities for some flooding with some of the leftovers after that. Let's focus a little bit on 91L. That's the Invest area. 91L, that's this tropical wave now in the Gulf of Mexico. National Hurricane Center saying in the next 2 days, a 50% chance of development, 60% chance into a tropical system over the next 7 days. I'm confident that this will become a tropical depression at least. So it would get the number, but maybe not a name. Remember, it's got to be a tropical storm before it gets the name. And it'll be on the edge of becoming a tropical storm. So we'll see. The National Hurricane Center, of course, is the ones who identify that officially. But I do think that this will have enough organization to it to become a tropical depression, again, over the next several days. But I don't think it's really going to matter that much as far as what kind of rainfall that it's going to be bringing. Lots of other things happening in the Atlantic. Let me start with the most recent development. 4 p.m. on Sunday, Franklin has been identified. I'm going to show you a forecast track here for Franklin in just a minute, but this is the area of invest that was in the far eastern portions of the Caribbean. We also have Tropical Depression 6, which formed yesterday, and then Emily formed this morning. I'm not going to show you a track necessarily for Emily, but it stays out in the Atlantic as well, not interfering with any land masses. Now, we will see Franklin sort of for the most part being a little bit more something to watch. And then we've got one more area here of possible formation. This is kind of the newest on the block, just coming off of that African coast. Hurricane Center identifying that as a 20% chance over the next 2 days, and then a 60% chance after that. Still, like the rest of especially like TD6, wrestling with the dust that's in the air and those upper level winds. The same thing's going to be happening here, not going to be happening easily. These other systems are finding little pockets where they can kind of work its way through. Here's that forecast track for Franklin that I was talking about, and definitely going to be making its way towards the Dominican Republic, and that could be a bit of a problem with some winds. Maybe as much as 65-mile-an-hour winds. This is because of the land interaction here. This is really what's going to keep it from becoming a hurricane quicker. You'll notice once we get out back into the Atlantic, the expectations are that this would become a hurricane. But at this point, we're moving away from any land, and this is okay. We don't mind if the systems are going to spin around out here. But as it's continuing to move through the Caribbean, definitely going to be some concerns, and watch for the rainfall as well as the winds getting close to hurricane force as it's moving around in the Caribbean and trying to exit, then getting into the Atlantic. We've got a little time to sort of watch what's going to happen there. Checking some names off of the list. As I mentioned, today we've checked 2 more off. Emily and Franklin. Gert will be the next named system that we have, and there's a couple spots, of course, that could be able to do that, including that wave that's in the Atlantic. So I feel like I kind of blew through things really fast, maybe a little bit of a speed version with a whole lot of content here, but we're glad you found us today on YouTube. Make sure and check back again tomorrow. I'll have another update. Actually, Ramisha Shade, meteorologist Ramisha Shade will be here tomorrow with the update, but we'll have another update here on the tropics in the afternoon on Monday.